Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And thank you so much for accepting our invitation, Brother Mezbah. And inshallah, we are going to have a very interesting program, which will be broadcasted live on YouTube. So it's sharp 11:30. So we can start if you're ready.
Sure. So the format will be I'll present for around 45 minutes, right?
Like 45 minutes.
Okay.
Can be longer if you like. So we will
Sure.
see. So are you in Kuala Lumpur, by the way?
Yes, in Kuala Lumpur.
Okay. And how is Ramadan there?
Alhamdulillah, good, and good to see you after a long time.
Yeah, same here, inshallah. We will meet in person very soon. So let me start then.
Sure then.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends on the time zone you are right now, to all of you. Today at the Karatay University International Talks, second one of the talks, we are going to talk about a very important topic in Islamic finance, namely on Waqf. As you know, Waqf is a mechanism for dedicating property for specific religious, charitable, or philanthropic purposes in perpetuity. It has a rich history in Islamic societies and has played a significant role in promoting social welfare and economic development. AAOIFI, the accounting and auditing organization for Islamic financial institutions, has recently issued new Sharia standards, on Waqf, namely Standard number 60, which provides guidance on the establishment and management of Waqf institutions. Today, we will explore the key provisions of this standard and their implications for Waqf institutions and stakeholders with our respected speaker, Mr. Mezbah Uddin AHMED. Let me introduce now our speaker. Brother Mezbah is currently researcher and consultant at the International Sharia Research Academy for Islamic Finance, or ISRA, in Malaysia. He's an editor and one of the authors of the very famous book, which we are using in institutions. So we actually started our studies in IBF with this book. And currently I'm again teaching my students from this book. It's a flagship of ISRA, the book which you all know, titled Islamic Financial Systems. And he has contributed to numerous research papers, industry reports, and publications. Brother Mezbah has worked on Islamic finance projects for various institutions. These are mainly regulators or central banks in Malaysia, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Algeria, Brunei, and the United Kingdom. He serves on the Sharia Advisory Council of Bangladesh Securities and Exchange Commission and is a research advisor of Central Sharia Board for Islamic Banks of Bangladesh. Brother Mezbah provides training on Islamic finance practices and has obtained multiple qualifications, and some of them are very much important, such as Certified Islamic Professional Accountant, or CIPA, and Certified Sharia Advisor and Auditor, which is CSAA from AAOIFI. And also he obtained master's degree in Islamic Banking and Finance from the Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance, IBF of IIUM, and bachelor's degree in applied accounting from Oxford Brookes University, the United Kingdom. So today, Brother Mezbah will share with us his valuable insights on the new Sharia standards on Waqf and its implications for the Islamic finance industry. So let us welcome our respected speaker and benefit from his valuable knowledge and expertise. Brother Mezbah, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kamola, for humble introduction. If you allow me to share the slides.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. I think you can share your screen. Or I will ask to enable to share the screen. Okay. Okay, it will be enabled shortly, rather.
Okay, sure.
Since our previous speaker, we didn't share screen with
Okay.
there was no presentation.
Okay, sure, sure.
So actually, it's very good. Actually, while they are trying to adjust it, we just completed our workshop last week with Professor Murat Çizakça, Professor Hamdi Döndüren, prominent professors here in Islamic finance on standard we are going to discuss today, Waqf standard number 60, the differences between the previous one, which is standard number 33. So maybe at the end we can have some discussions on that as well. It was actually it's very important to know the differences, and there are many participants who are interested to know how it apart from academicians, we also have participants from the Directorate of Awqaf here in Turkey. And I will share maybe during the discussion their concerns about the Waqf standard, not standard itself, but its adjustment and applications in Turkey. You know, that is another challenge.
Okay, it will be very interesting to hear about the issues from the Turkey's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think let us start. I mean, since shall I start with the slides?
Okay, it is on the way. Maybe we can start, and
Okay.
when it will be enabled, we can share the slides as well.
Okay. Now, Assalamualaikum and welcome all. Today we'll be discussing one particular standard issued by AAOIFI, that is Fishery Standard number 60, one Waqf. Now, this is the second edition or revised standard, if we mention like this, because previously they have issued Sharia Standard number 33, that is also titled as Waqf. It was in September 2007. Now, in March 2019, they have issued this standard number 60 Waqf. So both of these standards, number 33 and 60, they primarily provide some Sharia requirements, but then they also cover some governance aspects as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, beside the Sharia standards, he also has issued a governance standard on Waqf, governance standard number 13, and is Waqf governance. It was issued in September 2020. And also they have issued one accounting standard, financial accounting standard number 37, that is financial reporting by Waqf institutions. And besides that, they also have issued one guidance note for governance standard number 13. So anyway, our focus today will be governance standard number 60. So I'll basically cover what is in this standard. And then inshallah, we'll discuss in our open discussion what would be the issues in that.
Okay. And now you can also share your screen, Brother
Mezbah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is standard number 60, Waqf standard. It doesn't really supersede standard number 33. Rather, we may say it complements. But then, of course, if there are any contradiction between the two standards, then standard number 60 will supersede standard number 33. Otherwise, standard number 60 improved in terms of providing the Sharia basis. And also it added some aspects, for example, cash walk. Cash walk was mentioned in the previous standard as well, but then it enhances the content. And overall, the flow of the content is, I felt, is better in this standard number 60. Now, when we talk about Waqf, what is Waqf, and Dr. Kamola, she did mention about what is meant by Waqf. And normally we understand that Waqf is for charitable purposes, and also it is in perpetuity. But then AAOIFI recognizes that there can be various forms of Waqf. Like, for example, they divide Waqf in various types, particularly in number 60. So they divide based on Waqf beneficiary, where the benefits will be attributed to charitable purposes. Otherwise, it can be private or dynasty Waqf. Here it means that the Waqf benefits will go to certain family members. And then if those family members are no longer there, maybe they died, then the benefits will go to charitable purposes. And also, we can establish Waqf like this, having a component for charitable purposes and having another component for private purposes. That is, even the Waqif, he may benefit from the Waqf as well. So, for example, I may establish a Waqf like this, that until I die, I'll benefit from the income generated from the properties, and after my death, maybe some of my family members will get the benefits, and after their death, maybe then the benefits will go to charitable purposes. Or maybe I can set a ratio that out of the benefits derived from the Waqf property, a certain percent will come to me, and this other percentage will go to charitable purposes. Or maybe I can like in Musharaka, I can fix a sharing ratio, like those who are poor in the family will get a higher portion than the rest. So in a way, you can see that there are flexibilities in establishing a Waqf or establishing the purpose of Waqf. Now, also in terms of assets, AAOIFI, very importantly, they recognize cash Waqf. So Waqf asset can be cash, and also we'll see that. And it was in Standart 33 as well. The Waqf can be or Waqf assets can be shares, or also in 60 they have Sukuk as well. Now, Waqf duration, the general understanding is that Waqf is supposed to be perpetual, but then AAOIFI recognizes that Waqf can be temporary. And also in this particular standard, number 60, they have added that Waqf can be restricted. Now, what is meant by restricted? And they haven't really elaborated what is meant by restricted in number 60, but then we can understand that restricted may mean that the purpose of the Waqf assets return will be used in a restricted manner. That is, it will go to a certain group of people. Maybe it meant by that, or maybe because we'll see that later that AAOIFI mentions about how a restricted Waqf may end. So it says that when the restrictions will be there, but it doesn't really clarify what is meant by that. So it could be that maybe since temporary Waqf is allowed, so maybe a Waqf can be as such that it will continue until something happens to it, or until something happens to a group of people, or to a society, or to the circumstances of the Waqf asset. Anyway, now in terms of ruling of Waqf, so I'll just highlight a few of the key points here. So Waqf, setting up a Waqf is a recommended act, and that is one thing. And then it is also important to note that it is binding upon the Waqf from the instance of the creation of Waqf, and he cannot retreat from it. So once I set up a Waqf, I cannot retreat from it. But then, of course, we need to note that Waqf can be temporary. So when I'm setting the Waqf, I can set the Waqf for a certain period of time, but then it will be fixed for that period of time. Then also another important point is that it is an essential that there will be an offer from the Waqf side, but then it is not necessary to have an acceptance from the beneficiary side. In fact, there is no requirement for the beneficiaries to be present when I'm setting the Waqf, setting the Waqf. So an offer from Waqf creates Waqf through any means which indicates the same, expressed verbally in writing, or through any other means indicating the same. It doesn't require acceptance of the Waqf beneficiary, whether he was specific or not. And as I said, it is not even mandatory for the beneficiaries to be present at the time of setting up the Waqf. Even if the beneficiaries, even if the identified beneficiaries, even if they reject this Waqf, but it does not invalidate the Waqf. Even if the beneficiary reject the Waqf, it remains valid. Waqf remains valid. But then, if the targeted beneficiaries reject the benefits of the Waqf property, in that case, that benefits will go to other people, or go to other charitable purposes. So it is even not necessarily for the beneficiaries or targeted beneficiaries to accept, or even if they reject, still Waqf remains valid. Now, generally, the principle is that when we are setting the Waqf, Waqf will be set up from the present time. But then it is also possible, and I recognize that in the new standard, that Waqf can be the setup of Waqf can be contingent upon certain conditions, like if I die, for example, or if something happens to the so and so. And so Waqf can be contingent upon certain condition, or can be deferred to a future date. That is also a possibility, and that is also permissible. So although the general principle is that Waqf must come into effect immediately, but then it is also permissible to either to defer a commencement date, or it is permissible to make it contingent on certain conditions. Also, it is also permissible that especially this issue has been mentioned in the previous standard very clearly, that it is also permissible to set up Waqf now, but the benefits will be distributed from a later point of time. That is also permitted by AAOIFI. So it is not necessary that as soon as we set up the Waqf, and benefits must start be distributed from now on. Not necessarily. We can defer. We can accumulate the benefits for a certain period of time, and then later on we can start distributing the benefits. That is also permissible. Now, it is also important to note that, and that is interesting, particularly in this particular standard, they have added that, I have added that. So if the Waqf is contingent on death, so if the Waqf dies, and only then and the property will be established as Waqf, then it will take the ruling of bequest, that is only up to 1/3 of the property can be given as a Waqf asset. So that this 1/3 requirement will be imposed here if the Waqf makes a contingent upon his death. Now, of course, the Waqf must have the legal capacity to donate his possessions. That is, he must be the owner of the property. He must have full ownership of the property, and also that he must transfer and the legal ownership of the property. So that is very important. And then, of course, he has to have all the rights to make the transfer. For example, even we'll see that later that it is, for example, if the asset is left as a mortgage property, then it cannot be just sold to someone else unless the mortgagee allow the mortgagor to sell it. And then if the Waqf is a legal person, then the same thing we have seen in question number 33 is that if the Waqf is a legal person, then he must have legal capacity in the sense that if it is a shareholding company, then the shareholders must allow such a transfer of assets to establish Waqf property. And so that is also another important point. Either it can be through memorandum of the company, or by passing a resolution in the joint meeting. And the Waqf by person who. If the person is someone who has a habit of spending recklessly, so the principle here is that it is not. If he set up a Waqf, then it is not. It will not be considered as a Waqf. But then this particular standard didn't go into the details. Like, although someone may have this habit of spending it recklessly, and then maybe at a good point of time, he decided to set up a Waqf. But then shall we not take it, or in what circumstances we take it? So it doesn't go into that much details, this particular standard. Also interesting point is that Waqf during terminal illness is deemed to be ambiguous. So it is not that it is not allowed. It is allowed, but then it will take the ruling of it, because it is capped to 1/3 of the property. So, and also interestingly, here I has added that Waqf by a non-Muslim is valid, subject to observing rulings and conditions of Waqf. So, of course, it must be for the Sharia of compliant purposes and so on. But then Waqf by a non-Muslim is also deemed valid. Now, regarding Waqf beneficiaries, and now the Waqf beneficiaries must be Sharia compliant entities. And by that it means that in general anyone may benefit from Waqf property. It can, I mean, the beneficiary can be poor, can be rich, even the beneficiary can be the Waqf himself and his family members. So there is a quite a freedom is there that the beneficiary can be anyone as long as it is not prohibited. Then it is valid to stipulate that the Waqf beneficiary is Waqif, and to say I made this Waqf for myself and then for charitable causes. So as we have seen, it is also the private Waqf, as mentioned in this particular standard, is allowed. It is permitted for the Waqif to single out some of his children as Waqf beneficiaries, or to increase the shares if there is a valid reason, like poor person, divorcee, people with special needs. And so there is also flexibility. It is not required that Waqf beneficiary exists at the time of creation of Waqf, because, for example, if a Waqf continues in it is not required that the Waqf beneficiary exists at the time of Waqf. That means that like if the Waqf continues in perpetuity, so what may happen is that like the future generations need to come, so of course they are not present at the present time. The Waqf remains valid if the Waqf beneficiary is discontinued. Upon discontinuation of Waqf beneficiary, it will be used for similar charitable causes. That is, so I may designate the benefits to a certain group of people or certain institution, if they are not there anymore for any reason. Like, for example, I may designate the benefits to a group of people who are poor at the moment, but then eventually they are not poor anymore. So maybe they may not qualify to receive the benefits anymore based on the conditions stipulated by the Waqf. In this case, the benefits will go to maybe to other poor people. So it is invalid for the debtor to create a Waqf if it should be detrimental to creditor. So it is not really prohibited for a debtor to create a Waqf. It is allowed, but then provided that the debtor must first give priority to his obligation to the creditor. But in any case, if the creditor allows for the debtor to create a Waqf, even without settling his obligations, so looks like it's also allowed by AAOIFI. Now, this is an interesting point, or a few interesting points are here. That is, what if I mean, one thing is that Waqf cannot be created for Sharia non-compliant purposes. That's very clear. And even if someone creates Waqf for whatever reason, for any Sharia non-compliant purposes, maybe, for example, he didn't understand or whatever reason. But then the Waqf doesn't become invalid. That is interesting. The Waqf doesn't become invalid. Waqf remains valid. Only thing is that the conditions or the benefit, the target beneficiaries, they will change. So Waqf remain valid, but then the benefits will go to permissible purposes instead of non-permissible or impermissible purposes. So having impermissible conditions within the Waqf deed does not invalidate the Waqf. Waqf remains valid, only that that impermissible clause will not be valid. So it will be replaced with a permissible clause. And the thing is that is it permissible for an entity, for example, when we talk about IFIs, they have sometimes they have impermissible income, either due to certain void conditions or for other reasons. So is it permissible to create a Waqf with money that derived from impermissible sources? Now the answer is yes. It's permissible to create Waqf with money which is derived from impermissible sources. But the only condition here is that, although we have seen previously that the Waqif may benefit from the Waqf, but in this case, where we are creating a Waqf from impermissible sources, here the Waqif cannot benefit from the Waqf. And so, so yes, it is permissible to create a Waqf with money coming from impermissible sources, but then Waqif cannot benefit from this Waqf. So that is a little variation from the general ruling of the Waqif may benefit. And also, is it permissible to create a Waqf using conventional bonds? We understand that conventional bonds are not permissible instruments. Now, while general understanding is that definitely, if we have conventional bonds, we need to replace it with an Islamic one or an Islamic instrument. But then, even if we create, even if we have a conventional bond, investment conventional bond, then we can create a Waqf. But then, as soon as we create it, we will replace it with an Islamic instrument. So, looking at the text, it looks like that. When we must sell this bond, shall we sell this bond before creating Waqf or after creating Waqf? To me, it's not very clear. To me, it can be interpreted as in a way that yes, it is of course possible to sell it before creating Waqf and then replacing it with the Islamic instrument and then create a Waqf with that Islamic instrument. Or looks like that it is also permissible to establish the Waqf first and then later on sell it and then replace it with an Islamic instrument. But of course, it will in certain jurisdictions it can be subject to requirements set by the regulators as well. Now, cash Waqf, and that is we have seen before as well. IFI allows it, and also in this particular standard, it looks like that IFI has elaborated the matter a little bit more, so which is also in a way which is good that we have more clarity in this regard. So in cash Waqf, the cash is a Waqf asset, and the benefits we cannot rent cash because it will be riba. Then of course we need to invest into buy something and then either resell it or we need to lease it. So basically, cash itself will not grow, unlike the conventional system where it grows by charging or by renting to someone. So, the cash is a Waqf asset, yes, but then we will invest it, either to trade or to buy and lease. Or even to invest it in instruments like shares and sukuk. These are permissible. Now, the benefits deriving from the investments will be distributed to the Waqf beneficiaries. So it is permitted to create a Waqf over investment accounts on a perpetual or time basis, or rulings on cash Waqf shall apply to them. So basically, we have Mudaraba deposit accounts in certain markets we call it, and certain markets we call it investment accounts. I call it investment accounts. So yes, we can maintain an investment account based on the Waqf principle, where the money will be there for either for a certain period of time or in perpetuity, but the benefits deriving from that will go to beneficiaries. Now, as we have seen that a general principle is that the Waqf may also participate. So we can say maybe here also the Waqf may participate along with the beneficiaries, or Waqf can be one of the beneficiaries as well. So, and also if cash Waqf is invested in buying assets, then these assets will be deemed to be something other than the Waqf asset instead of the cash. It will be permitted to sell these assets for a more beneficial investment. For the Waqf asset shall remain the cash amount. So cash amount is the basic Waqf asset. So if we buy something with cash, that asset doesn't become Waqf asset. Cash will remain, but of course here the cash transforms into different asset, and we need to somehow generate benefits from that. And nominated money at the time of Waqf creation shall constitute the Waqf asset, and there is no influence of change in the purchasing power of the value of the cash Waqf assets. It is permitted for the Waqf to stipulate that part of Waqf revenues will be added to cash Waqf asset. So, two interesting point. One thing is that we know that there is inflation, and then purchasing power of cash decreases over time. So, one concern may arise that while if we create a Waqf with cash, then over time its value will decrease. Then how are we going to address this issue? And now here we see that our disposition is that when the purchasing power issue or the inflation issue will not affect this, but then we understand that in reality it will impact the return that may generate that we may generate by investing the asset. So again, it doesn't go into the other details, or it doesn't provide other information how we may address this issue. But then it just said that it is permitted for the Waqf to stipulate that the part of cash Waqf revenues will be added to the cash Waqf asset. So basically, if we are concerned about that, maybe we can structure in a way that whatever benefits we can generate by investing the cash, one part of it will be added to Waqf asset. So maybe to address the issue of inflation, maybe gradually we can increase the cash Waqf asset. So a certain mechanism can be there to addressing the issue of inflation. And also, interestingly, here also IOP allows, not only allows, rather specifically mentions that Sharia compliant most of hedging should be followed to protect the principal amount of the cash Waqf and to hedge against the risk of foreign currency fluctuations and changes of its value. So it's really interesting in the way that it specifically the hedging component has been mentioned, as we understand that hedging is a part of concern among the Sharia fraternity. But then, of course, this hedging must be Sharia compliant in Sharia compliant mode. Now, Waqf shares and the Sukuk, we have seen the previous also in 33, we allowed investment in Sukuk, or of course not investment in Waqf Sukuk, sorry, for shares, we have seen that, and here they have mentioned about Sukuk as well. So Waqf shares is permissible, and then we understand that the shares must be Sharia compliant. Definitely, the shares must be deemed as Sharia compliant. But then this standard does not talk about how we determine that. But we know that RP has a separate standard on how to determine Sharia compliant shares. And this standard also does not discuss about what if the company has some tainted income, some prohibited income, and how we do the verification from the Waqf perspective. It doesn't talk about that. So maybe we can understand that whatever we has mentioned in this standard on financial papers, that will be relevant here as well. For Sukuk, yes, we can also invest or we can Waqf Sukuk and other units of investment funds. In this case, it may form one of two. The Waqf assets may take the form of one of two. One is either the Sukuk investment funds will be considered as Waqf asset, or the value of it will be considered as a Waqf asset. So it will be determined at the point of establishing the Waqf whether the Sukuk or units will be considered as Waqf asset, or the value of it will be considered as Waqf asset. If the value is considered as Waqf asset, then it will take the ruling of cash Waqf. Now, so when we are establishing a Waqf, what are the conditions we may stipulate in our Waqf deed? The answer is very simple in the sense that any general rule of permissibility will be applied here. So although Standard number 60 provided it a long discussion on this, but then the conclusion of the very short point here is that general rule of permissibility applies here. So anything which is prohibited from Constitutional Sharia is not permissible, of course, and anything that may not be beneficial or anything that could be detrimental to the cause of Waqf or to the Waqf asset are not prohibited. So basically, these 3 points. Sharia prohibited items are not permissible. Anything that may not be beneficial to the beneficiaries, not permissible to be a condition of the Waqf, and also anything that may cause harm to the Waqf asset, such a condition also is not a valid condition. Even if there is such a condition added by the Waqf at the time of installation of the Waqf, and later on we find out that there is such a condition that is not beneficial or that is detrimental or that is harmful to the Waqf, then we may change that condition. Okay, and okay. Now, as I have said, a very important point, that is an invalid condition doesn't invalidate a Waqf. So if there is an invalid condition, we will just change the condition. We'll replace the condition, but it does not invalidate the Waqf. Waqf will remain. So Waqf will continue. Now, this particular standard covers two aspects, as I mentioned at the beginning. One is the Sharia aspects, other is the governance aspects. So this particular section is a very long section that is on overseership. That is, to understanding, is basically governance, not strictly Sharia matters. But then, of course, if governance is not strong, or there are weaknesses, then it may cause Sharia issues as well. So And this section discusses about overseership of slaves. What is meant by that? It says that we can name him anything, and we can make him trustee, and no issue. And then I discuss about appointment restrictions. Basically, who can be take the role of overseership. It can be an individual, it can be a committee, it can be a state entity. And then there are restrictions like what he cannot do, and of course he must be an independent party, because since he'll be of the entity will take the role of a trustee, so he must be independent in the sense that he must be very cautious when he is if he is taking any benefit from the property. So generally, either it would not be allowed, and if in certain situations if it is allowed, then it must be observing certain conditions. And one of the or among the important points is that for example, he cannot do anything that may harm the Waqf asset. He cannot do anything that harm the Waqf asset, and also even if he rent out the property, it must be at fair rate, and so on. And but importantly, it is permissible for him, or it is permissible for the overseer to take a remuneration for playing his role. So taking remuneration is permitted, but of course it must be it must not be more than the market rate. So of course it can be below market rate, it can be for free, but then it must not be below market rates. But taking remuneration is permitted. But then if it happens that if the Waqf property fails to generate sufficient income for the beneficiaries, in that case, that must be prioritized over giving the remuneration. That's what, as I understood, that's an interesting point. And dismissal, of course, I mean, you can resign, of course, and of course, he can be dismissed due to non-performance, poor performance, of course, and or breaking any condition related to trust. Now, in Waqf, maintenance of the Waqf asset is the highest priority. Of course, we're creating Waqf to benefit certain group of people or as for certain purposes, but then maintenance of the Waqf asset is the first priority. So if we generate income, then the priority must be given to either first to take care of the expenditures of running the property, because those are our obligations. Those are the obligations of the Waqf, and then if the Waqf asset requires certain maintenance, and then of course that must be prioritized, and only then whatever remains will go to the beneficiaries. Now, it is also permissible to allocate an amount of the Waqf revenues for maintenance and repair, so to being in line taking an accounting basis and standards, even if the Waqf does not stipulate such a condition. Investing the allocated amount should be in modes which can be recreated easily, and the investment revenues are added to the allocated amount, and the surplus shall be returned to the Waqf beneficiaries. One important, another important point is that even if the Waqf does not mention anything about maintenance of the asset, it's also it doesn't matter even if it doesn't mention. The maintenance will get the priority. So that is one of the important points mentioned in this particular standard. And also, if the amounts available for maintenance or repair are insufficient, the overseer may allow the leasee of the Waqf asset to carry out maintenance and repair. Specifically, if we lease out the property to someone, so for example, if we have a building and lease out to someone to occupy and then give us rent, and then there is a need to do maintenance. In this case, maybe we don't have cash, we have money, but then we can request the leasee that can please do the maintenance for now, and in return of that, maybe you can stay longer, or maybe we can adjust with your future rent. So we can give him some benefits for his health, if we may say like this. Now, the standard also covers about certain other matters, like for example, indebting the Waqf. Now, in the general principle is that it is not permissible to indebt the Waqf. So basically, Waqf is a legal entity. It may own assets, or it will own assets, and it may also incur liabilities. But unless creating an obligation for the purpose of the Waqf's benefit, it is not in general principle is that it is not permissible to indebt the Waqf. But then, of course, it is permissible for the Waqf to buy something on a deferred payment basis. For example, maybe it is buying something from an Islamic bank based on the murabak of the deferred payment basis. So this is an obligation. So if it is for the purpose of benefiting the Waqf, then it's okay. But otherwise, the general principle is that indebting the Waqf is not permissible. Then pledging of a Waqf asset, the same applies here, like like indebting the Waqf. General principle is that it's not allowed, but then while if it is something for the benefit of a Waqf, then yes, it's permitted. So as you can see, indebting, pledging, and also lending of Waqf fund, these are not. General principle is that these are not allowed, but then there can be circumstances where it could be allowed. Lending of Waqf fund or guaranteeing a third party obligation. That is in principle it's not allowed, but then it could be allowed if, for example, that was the purpose of the Waqf. For example, we have established a Waqf to support those who, for example, we establish Waqf to support small businesses who may at times borrow money from others, but they need guarantor. And if they want guarantee from banks, maybe banks are conventional and the charges, or banks are not willing to provide guarantee. So the purpose of the Waqf, the purpose of the Waqf fund is to provide a guarantee or to be the guarantor of those small businesses. So in that case, of course, I mean, they can be a guarantor. But of course, in such a case, certain level of assessment should be there. But it doesn't go into much details about that. Anyway, investment of Waqf revenue, yes. Yeah, as we have discussed already, the Waqf assets, the revenue generated from the investment of Waqf assets will go to beneficiaries, and of course it will also take care of the maintenance cost. But then it is also permissible. To administer Waqf like this, that part of the revenue will be added to Waqf asset. That is also a permissible. Avenues of Waqf disposal. So in this case, the important point is that generally there could be situations where we need to. So one thing is that selling the assets generated from the Waqf's benefit, and this one other is the Waqf asset. So if we are talking about selling the assets generated or assets created from the benefits of Waqf's investment, that's a rather easier thing to do. But then if it is about selling the Waqf asset, then there are restrictions applied. Substitution of Waqf, that is the important point, and previous standard covered that, and this new standard also covered the substitution part. And there are situations where we may need to substitute our Waqf property. Particularly if it is if you invest in shares, then while in this case we may have to trade the shares. So basically, the old shares will be substituted by a new share. And even if it is fixed assets like properties, so there will be situations where continuing the current assets may not be, or continuing the existing assets may not be beneficial for the beneficiaries or the purpose of Waqf. For example, maybe the property is now in an area that is now became underdeveloped, or maybe we may need to replace a residential property with a commercial property to enhance our income, and there could be other reasons. And this quotation of the Waqf beneficiaries, by that it means that even if the beneficiaries are not there, that is the assigned or the targeted beneficiary or independent beneficiary are not there anymore, the Waqf will remain, the Waqf will continue. Only that either we'll try to find similar beneficiaries. If they are not there, then it may go for other charitable purposes. Now, how a Waqf may end. Now, Waqf may, if it is temporary Waqf, then of course it will end with the expiry of the time. So that's one. And if it's restricted Waqf, as I said before, I've been mentioned about restricted Waqf here, but then it didn't really clarify what is meant by that. So anyway, but it says that restricted Waqf will end by the occurrence of restriction. So what will be restriction? It doesn't say, but then they need to imagine that what restriction, maybe certain restriction from the government, from the state, or from some other party. And then in any case, if there is a total loss event, and then Waqf will terminate. It doesn't matter if it is temporarily restricted or perpetual. So there can be total loss event for any reason. I mean, there can be total loss event for, like, for example, flood, earthquake, fire, and so on. And then if the property has been damaged totally, then there will not be any Waqf, yeah. So with that, I end my quick presentation. Now open for discussion.
Thank you so much, Brother Mezbah. It was very interesting presentation, and mashallah, you are very sharp. Just in 45 minutes sharply. Well, while we are waiting, we are broadcasting on YouTube for the questions. We open the floor for the questions from our participants who are interested. Before that, I have a few questions actually, based on our workshop which we have conducted in like last week Monday. But before that, let me also highlight some points which I take. You mentioned that a new standard number 60 is not it's not replacing standard number 33, but more it's comprehending it. It's like completing the standard. And here, actually, we have a few differences when it comes even definition, Brother Mezbah, like definition in standard number 33 is broader compared to the new standard. When it comes to the scope, for example, standard number 60 has a broader scope than standard number 33, as it covers not only the establishment and management of Waqf, but also the related concepts of endowment and trust. Like we have more focus on the appointment of Waqf administrator, the disclosure requirements, also treatment of Waqf reserve, like such as creating reserve fund, which is another interesting point, like create to maintain a reserve fund to meet any unexpected expenses or losses. Whereas in standard number 33, we do not have specifically addressed that issue. Well, but again, here I have also a few questions. Like firstly, coming to the Sharia compliant modes, like you mentioned that when if there is invalid condition when it comes to the Waqf, it will never do. It will not harm basically the Waqf institution itself. But when it comes to the hedging, like Sharia compliant hedging, can you give us more examples on what type of hedging we are mentioning here? And also, in case if there is any gain coming from these derivative instruments, like because when you are going for the derivative instruments, they also may generate gain. So how we need to treat that gain when it comes to the Sharia compliant mode of hedging of Waqf assets, especially this one is related to cash Waqf, right?
One simple example can be that if we invest in, like for example, sukuk issued by a foreign issuer or instrument issued by a foreign issuer, then they will be exposed to foreign currency risk, and to hedge that we can have Sharia compliant hedging. So that can be one, like we can have Islamic forward arrangement. Now from derivatives gain, when you say gain can be one of two ways. One is when we trade the derivatives, but then we understand that trading of derivatives probably would not be allowed. I don't see I'll be allowing it, but then again, this could be in the sense that if we didn't hedge, and then our loss will be that. But then since we hedge, so our loss is lower, or so we may consider that as a gain. But then of course that will be considered as, to my understanding, as a permissible gain.
Actually, what I'm thinking about, because when we talk about the derivatives, okay, it might be Sharia compliant derivatives, but our main focus here that we are trying to prevent the loss of Waqf assets due to fluctuations in exchange rates, right? But maybe we can think about converting cash Waqf assets from the beginning to something which is not prone to the fluctuations, maybe to donate it or Waqf our assets cash in form of gold, which has intrinsic value. That can be discussed, but now we have also a few questions from our participants. First question coming from Dr. Hussein Argun, who is also head of our department at Karatay University, Department of Islamic Economics and Finance. And he mentioned that it was a very nice program, and thanks especially to Brother Mezbah for his valuable inputs. So question is here, how does IOP Waqf Standard number 60 address the issue of transparency and accountability in Waqf management, and what are some of the key requirements for financial reporting? So this is the question number one.
Okay, that is a sort of interesting, I mean, very important question, definitely. And that's why you can see that this even Standard 33 and Standard 60 in both cases are the emphasized on the governance aspect, although the standard is basically Sharia standard. And beside that, they have issued one governance standard, especially on the Waqf. And not only that, they also have issued one guidance note on the governance standard. And that guidance note provides more details regarding ensuring all the governance issues, including transparency. I don't see transparency like per se, but then more of strengthening the government components. And then for accounting, yes, they have had a standard on accounting that is financial standard of institution. So that do provide some disclosure requirements. Yeah, but then yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. But now I have also another question from Dr. Hussein, but I see he's here with us. Maybe Dr. Hussein, maybe you can on your camera and ask in person. It will be better.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, we can see you. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Brother Mezbah, you welcome our program. It was very nice and it was very wide and great. Dr. Kamola, also thank you for the program. It's very useful for us, for our students, and for all competence. Also, last week we had a workshop about this Waqf standard, and this one, I think it's very interesting to learn about something about Waqfs, because transparency issues, overseerships, and the other details, the previous standard doesn't include something, but this new standard brings a wider perspective, I think, and it's really important, especially for the cash Waqfs and Sukuk and the fund and share Waqfs. It's very interesting because this standards brings more details about these issues. And right. Also, I would like to ask, as Dr. Kamola said, because I can ask directly, I think now, what kind of developments or what kind of presence, for example, for the Sukuk Waqfs, for the Islamic financial environment? Because I think, for example, from the era of Ottoman Empire, the cash Waqfs are very, very important, and they're making an Islamic financial institution like. But now the Sukuk foundations and the other foundations, what kind of developments for the Islamic financial environment? I would like to ask this one in person. Thank you.
Okay. Now, if we talk about the status perspective, It did cover shares, sukuk, as well as investment funds. So that is also, I mean, very interesting and also very important for us in developing the market. But then it does not go into much details about that. But then we can understand that it provides us, since it recognizes these as possible instruments to establish a Waqf. So it provides us flexibility in structuring Waqf or Waqf institutions, or having these as Waqf assets. And also it provides in a way flexibility in terms of replacing these instruments. Not necessarily that even if we start something with certain shares or certain sukuk or certain units, we don't need to like hold them. There is no such requirement. Rather, it allows us to sell these instruments. So it provides us enough flexibility to get the most benefit out of it. So yeah, I mean, yeah. So as long as our regulations allow, so we can enjoy the flexibility.
Inshallah, because these developments brings them Waqf and Islamic financial institutions more deeper, I think. Thank you very much, Brother Mezbah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hussein. Also, another question I want to ask Brother Mezbah, because that one also was discussed a lot. Like when it comes to the shares, like Waqfing shares as an asset, as a Waqf asset in the future. We have one item in the new standards that you can Waqf your shares in some future time, right? Like it's on condition. Like I have shares of ABC company and I can Waqf them, let's say, after 1 year. There was a discussion on the harar element on this, like what if in 1 year the ABC company will bankrupt? This is one thing. Another, I will bankrupt, like I will be financially insolvent, so I would need actually that shares. Can you also give some information?
So, from this standards perspective, you can see that it says that if we provide an undertaking to create a Waqf, that undertaking will not be considered as a Waqf. So if we say that I will donate this to establish Waqf or to a Waqf, so this undertaking is not a Waqf. So it will become a Waqf when I have taken the action. Now, what may happen is that, of course, I may designate this as a Waqf property from now, but then the benefits I can hold, I can defer, I can say that no, the benefits will not be distributed from now. It will be distributed from a future point in time. So again, to summarize, if the undertaking is not considered as a Waqf, undertaking is just an undertaking. So Waqf will be when I will take the action. So then I believe the car element is addressed here, because it's just undertaking, and undertaking will be executed once all the conditions are present at the time, at the point of execution. That is, the asset is there, the ownership is there, and all other the requirements are fulfilled. Only then I can fulfill that undertaking by transferring the ownership of that asset. Yeah, and other things that I can donate now, or I can create a Waqf now, but I can create a condition that the benefits will come to me until a future point in time, and later on it will go to others. It can be like that, or it can be that the benefits will be on hold, the distribution of benefits will be on hold until a future point in time, and then it will be distributed. Yeah.
So in future, but again, this undertaking still it is binding. Am I right?
Binding, yeah, unilateral from my side. It's fine. Yeah.
For your side, okay. Thank you so much, Brother Mezbah. We are coming to the like it's already 1 hour, and inshallah we will keep discussing on this new standard, which is very much important. Again, when it comes to the implementation, of course, we have some shortfalls, like such as during our meeting last week, our workshop last week, the director of the directorate, regional director of the Waqf directorate, which is something like Ministry of Waqf, if we like compare with different countries like Algeria, so on and so forth. The main issue of the standard was what they said was, yes, okay, we have this standard, which is very much important. But when it comes to the implementation of the standard in our country, we face many problems because of the legal things, you know, like the legal framework, which will not allow the implementation. Maybe that would be another concern. We can work out how to solve these issues. Like one thing was giving, like, waqfing your assets or part of your wealth after your demise, for example. That is an issue. Yes, we have that item, but when it comes to the implementation, it's not matching the regulation. So actually, we need best practices from countries which could implement this standard. In terms of Turkey, maybe this one was one of main shortcomings. And thank you so much, Brother Mezbah, again. And inshallah, we will continue our programs. And now I want to also welcome again Dr. Hussein for the closing the program. But before that, anything you want to add, Brother Mezbah, before I pass the floor to Dr. Hussein?
Thank you. I mean, thank you for inviting me. It was wonderful listening to you as well, and seeing you. And of course, yeah, I mean, inshallah, we'll meet again.
Inshallah.
Take care.
Inshallah. Thank you so much. Take care. Yes, Dr. Hussein, the floor is yours, please.
Oh, thank you very much again, Dr. Kamola and Brother Mezbah. It was a very great and very impressive program. I would like to express my gratitude for all the attention for the program, because Waqf civilization is very important, and our bringing mission is excited me, because Waqf is very important. This standard, as Dr. Kamola mentioned, we can see many examples, I think, from the other countries. That's why I would like to thank Brother Mezbah for participation, and also Dr. Kamola for this great moderation. But it's not the last speech for me, because I think you have to close this program. I just want to make a thank you to all participants and Brother Mezbah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hussein, Brother Mezbah. It was our second talk, Karatay International talks, number 2, where we have discussed about the new standard of AAOIFI, standard number 60. And we are looking forward to see you in our coming programs.